Okay, everybody, I went ahead and I put all the code for all the 8 indices. Just like I did for DSRI, I translated the formulas from the Word document into code into our R program. If you're unsure about how I did some of the translations, you can always look at the solution and compare it to the formula sheet to compare exactly how I did it. Now, in addition to putting in the code for the 8 indices, what I also did was I created 9 vectors. Line 21 to 28 has 8 vectors for the 8 indices, and I also created line 29, the vector BT, which is going to store our returns for each stock. Now, just as a reminder, this is from lab 3, but in line 53, we created the ratio DSRI, or the index. This value DSRI will be overwritten for every ticker in the for loop. To capture the value that we calculate, we want to append it in this vector that we created, DSRIV, in line 54. We want to do that for all the indices, so that's why we created 8 different vectors. For the BT vector, what's going on, similar to lab 3, I have a time frame for which I want to backtest this portfolio that I'm testing out. From the beginning of 2017 to February 12, 2018. I'm just going to take a simple return. I want a simple return. I buy it in the beginning of 2017, and hypothetically, I sell it in February 12, 2018. What would be my gains or losses? Okay, that's exactly what's going on, and we calculate that here. B divided by A minus 1. And I append it to the BT vector because, again, for each ticker, it's going to be a different value. Okay, so I go ahead and I run my for loop. There are no errors. I do have a warning because some of the data is missing. That's all right. That's expected. In line 95, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run, I'm going to basically create a data frame or a table out of the tick2 vector, which has the name of all our tickers, the 8 indexes that I place the values in vectors, and the BT vector that has all the returns, right, for each one of the tickers. Now let's look at how it looks. And it looks great. It has everything we want. We have the ticker columns, that is called tick2 for now. We have the values for each one of these tickers, for each particular index. We have their backtest returns. Apple did great. Some of these stocks not so well in that time period. But we also have a new problem though. If you look, and a lot of you guys have this problem in your lab, you have an NaN error and an INF error. What does that mean? What is that? Basically, what's happening is this is a function of just bad data. So when you divide a 0 by 0, you get an NaN. Okay, logically, you're not supposed to be dividing anything by 0. When you divide any non-zero number by 0, you get infinity, right? Which again it's a function of bad data. This is again, we'll get better data sources for our future labs. For now, we're just dealing with using QuantMod, so there is going to be some data that's missing. An easy way to deal with this for our purposes, we just want to go back and we want to check for the denominators to see if there's a 0, and if there is a 0, then we don't want to do the calculation. We just want to make that index 0 by default, right? Just to make things simple. So I'm going to go to DEPI here first, the DEPI index, and that is right here, DEPI. Kept missing it because it's hidden. Now, DEPI is straightforward. This is our denominator. We need to check that for 0. Now, this is a great way to practice our basics. I'm going to do if-else statement. I'm going to check this for 0. Now, when we're doing a logical check to check if something's equivalent to another variable, remember we need 2 equals. It's the same as Java and same as C++. In this case, if that is 0, then I'm going to simply append a 0 value. If it's not, then I'll go ahead and have my original equation. All right, very straightforward. So that's DEPI. Now I go down to LVGI, and LVGI is a little more complicated. LVGI, we have two ratios that we're dividing by each other. Here and here, here and here. Now, obviously, let's start with LVGI2. LVGI2 is this down here. So obviously, I need to check if this is 0. Okay? Very straightforward. If that's 0, then I want to make everything, I want to make the LVGI ratio just default to 0. But in addition, I also need to check this. You see, if this is 0, then what happens is the numerator will also become an NaN or an inf. Okay? And that's going to be bad as well. But I have another problem as well. If this is 0, right, this is going to make the denominator 0. So I have to check that for 0. So in essence, I have to check this, and this if they're 0. An easier way is a function that I haven't shown you guys yet. I can show you right now. It'll make your life easier. If you look down here in the console, there's a function called is.finite, right? Just like we use is.na, we go is.finite. If you put an 8 in here, that gives you a true. 8 is a finite number. If I put 8.99, again, finite number. If I put an NaN, I get a false. It's not a finite number, right? As we know. If I put an INF, I get a false as well. It's not a finite number. An easier way for me to just handle this is just to check the final LVGI value. So what I can do is I can do if is.finite LVGI, meaning it's a number. If this is a number, if this ratio I calculate is indeed a number and not an inf or NaN, then I'm going to append everything like normal. Else, if it's not a finite number, then I want to do like I did before and just append to 0. All right, I'm just showing you a new way to make your life a little bit easier. And of course, I'm showing you after you guys all struggle with the lab. Now, I have my new changes. I'm going to go ahead and rerun my for loop. When I rerun my for loop, I want to rerun lines 21 to 29. If you check BT, BT already has values. So if you just run that for loop without clearing out the BT vector, all those vectors from line 21 to 29, it's just going to keep appending the numbers. So instead of 8 values, you're going to have 16. And it's going to mess up your table and the results you're trying to do. So just, you're going to clear out the vectors, and you're going to rerun the for loop. There we go, done. Again, we have a warning message, just some stock just doesn't have adequate data. We just have to roll with it. I'm going to process my data frame. Oh, and it looks like I skipped processing one of the vectors. I thought I did all of them, so let me do this again. Let me run this again, LVGI, DEPI, and we are good to go. All right. All right, there we go. Go down here. I'm getting this error down here in my console because what's happening here is I have a vector that's not of the same length, so I can just simply check each one. Tick 2 is, I can actually just type it in and check it out. So tick 2 is tick 2, DSRIV, perfect. Let's check the ones we changed, so LVGIV. That's fine, and now DEPI-V. Ah, DEPI-V. That is the culprit. So what do we do with DEPI-V? All right, DEPI-V. We said, oh, we have an error here. I apologize. I forgot the else statement, guys. I had a typo. So again, let's rerun this. See right here. I had the if statement, I had my my other conditional, I totally forgot the else in line 79. So let's take this again, run it. Got a warning. Hopefully that took care of the situation. Looks like it did. And now everything looks much better. All right, we have no ints, we have no any ends. We have a bunch of zeros, but we just have to roll with it, okay? So this is our final table. Now we want to do something with it, right? We want to do something with it. Now here, before we look at that code, I want to show you what we need to do next. What we need to do next is obviously, look, we have our 8 indices, right? From here to here, okay? From the second column all the way to the 9th column. We want to create a column called total that adds all these numbers up so we get a total score, right? Now, the real PROBM index, there's different percentages you assign to each value, and then you sum it up to get a score. We'll deal with that later for our future labs. For now, we're just going to keep it simple. We're just going to sum it up and create a new total score. Now, a lot of you are doing a for loop, going line by line and adding it up. You don't need to do that because there are functions we can use to do the math for us. Now, you guys know how to add up a whole column, right? That's not a hard part for you guys. If I take df dsriv and I simply do sum on it, it's going to give you the value 7.703 down here, and this is basically the summation of this column right here. Now, that's great, but what if we want to sum up the row? So then some of you, what you started doing is you did df number 2 to 9, and again, when you just put numbers in there, colon, when you're slicing numbers within the table, you're basically choosing a subset of the table of the column by columns, right? So here, these are the 8 indices, and what you're doing is you were saying, okay, let me do this and let me sum it, right? Which is close. That gives you one number, 194. What is that? That is a summation of all these numbers, and for every row and every column. That's not what you want at all either. What you want is, you want to use the function, sorry, it's not row sum, it is row sum with a capital S. Oop, hold on, I believe it. Row sums, there you go. That's the one we want. Row sums. All right. Now look at what row sums gives us down in the console. This number is the summation of this first row. This is summation of the second row, the third row, the fourth row, the fifth row, the sixth row, etc., etc., etc. Okay. This way I don't have to do any for loops. I just have to call this one line, and I have all the values I want. In fact, this line 112 gives me what? A vector. I can append a vector directly into a table. How do I create a new column in a table? You simply write the data frame, and then you do $, right, to signal that you're using a column or you want to get to the column properties of a table. And then you give the new name you want to do. You want to write. Here I'm going to write total. Total doesn't exist. R will automatically know I'm creating a new column. I'm going to set that equal to row sums, parentheses df29, the summation of the columns by row. I press enter, and now if I press df down here, you will see I added a new column, total, all the way down here, which now sums up the 8 indices and creates my total score, which is going to be the new ratio I use now to sort my stocks.